Alright, today we'll be showing you the top and back hinge assembly of a 23 model kiln. This one in particular is a J23. Same thing will go for both an E23 model and a Jupiter 23 model. First we're going to install the ceramic handle on the top hinge.
And Blake, tell us the process. What are you putting on first?
First you're going to put on the lock nut. Then you're going to slide it through. Slide one of the washers on.
So this is a nylon washer here. It's going to help prevent this from breaking. It's going to add a little bit of space in between there. So I'll put the other nylon washer on. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze. You want to make sure that that rod isn't sticking out. Then it will match up there and go through. And you'll add the nut on the other end. So you'll need 5/8 drivers on each side to tighten both sides at the same time.
Could you use a wrench on one side?
You could use a wrench on one side to hold it. This is just a little bit faster. Just hands tight, nothing too tight. Next we're going to just lay this plate on the front for later use.
And you could put that on later if you wanted to.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes you can.
So next we're going to grab our 3/4 inch spacers. We use 3/4 inch spacers for the 2.5 model.
With a 2.5 inch lid.
2.5 inch lid.
Right.
So you'll lay your top hinge on top of those spacers. So first thing we will do is use our 4 small Tech screws and screw in the front of the hinge.
But first, don't you have to
You will
measure it?
You don't have to measure at the first part, the front part.
Okay.
You're only going to need to measure for the back part.
Okay.
So these are self-tapping screws, so there's no pilot holes necessary. So next we're going to check to make sure that this top hinge is centered. You're looking for 10 and 5/8 on both sides. You're measuring from the hinge itself to this corner. So once you know that that's centered, you can attach the back.
Sorry.
Next you're going to grab Next we're going to attach the back hinge to the top hinge. You're going to use one of these bars with a clamp on the one side.
Nice little pin.
A pin. So the pins will hold these in place. Alright, so this part is important in particular. You're going to need to lift the back hinge until it's tight to the top.
You're not going to want to
notice
see
here that your bar is sitting on the bottom of that back hinge. This prevents the lid from sliding down once you lift it up. So at least for the first 2 screws, you're going to hold that in place. The screws are going to be placed in the middle. You want this area for adjustment in the future, so you'll leave that there.
And again, these could end up being Phillips head screws depending on what version.
So once those 2 screws are in place, it will stay tight. so you don't need to hold it up anymore. And then you'll proceed to attach a screw for each of the spaces on the back end. So it will be a total of 20 screws on the back hinge. So there are backer plates behind each of these that are going to hold the screws in place. So they are metal pieces that we slide through to help hold that screw. The self-tapping screw will go through that metal plate on its own. But any other time that we're drilling a pilot hole is because there's a backer plate as well. So once that back hinge is in place, you can remove your spacers. What we're going to do next is install the springs.
And we keep the rod on the outside hole. There's another hole if you want to make it tighter or put more spring pressure on it. But
Show that alignment to the camera of the springs.
Have the longest side pointing down. Once you do that,
So those longer edges are facing down. You're using 2 pins to hold that in place, and 2 pins down here to hold this in place. So as you can see, these here are going to be up against that, and we're now going to engage the springs by lifting the lid. And you engage them by putting that through so that it catches. And now your spring is engaged. So you want to make sure that you have all 6 pins in place on the back at this point. Gonna place a warning label. Alright, so what we'll be doing now is attaching the latch that will hold the lid down in place.
let's explain what all the different things are going and how they're going to be used.
That there is going to go in the 2 holes that are provided in the plate itself here. Your latch will go beneath that piece. That's what's going to latch on there. And behind this piece here will be a backer plate, like we talked about earlier, that we're going to drill pilot holes into. And you'll be using the Phillips head screws for this part of the assembly.
And the paper clip?
The paper clip will be used to hold the backer plate in place so that our latch doesn't slip and that the backer plate itself doesn't slip down into the kiln. So Blake will show you how to do that now.
I can explain the drill bit.
Oh.
The need.
this one,
9/64.
9/64, yeah,
9/64. Okay.
which is gonna.
Regular number 2 Phillips head.
scratch that. Cut. You're gonna want to.
Alright, so we've screwed both of our Phillips head screws into this spot here. Next, we're going to put that latch on there so that we can mark where our pilot holes need to go. Going to use the people plug to hold the lid in place so that we have room to operate.
Bring it down just a little bit from your line.
The reason we bring it down a little bit from that line that we drew is so that when we actually latch it, it's pulling the lid down. So make sure that that backer plate is in there tight.
What it needs. But with those, you gotta have it a little bit more down. So I need a...
You want it a little deeper?
Yeah.
So just get a thin implement, like a flathead screwdriver or a piece of metal.
Just to push it down just a little bit.
Slide that down.
How far down is
And
that?
just like a 1/4 inch.
Yeah, about a half inch behind.
So that it's behind both of the
Yeah,
points
you want-
where you're about to drill.
Yeah, you want it low enough that you know that this is catching that piece of metal down here.
So then you wanna hold that in place.
Same drill.
Same drill, 90,
Same drill,
9/64 bit.
Slide that in.
So the reason we're using the paper clip is so that when you're drilling this next hole, the backer plate doesn't try to drop and spin out of place. This paper clip here is going to hold that backer plate back there in place so that when he uses this screw, it's not going to spin. So you'll use Phillips head screws on both of those. You can take the people plug out, hold that in place, and latch it.
That's it.
We're done.
So I guess my question was when you're talking about moving it down a little bit, you're going to draw that line to the very bottom of this part right here and then pull the entire thing down just a touch so you can see the difference between the top of my fingernail and that line. That's how much you're going to want to pull it down.
16th of an inch, 30
So that-
seconds.
something, yeah. Maybe a 16th of an inch there. And then that'll, yeah. So you want to have this, when you get that space there and you pull it down a little bit, that enables, this is what it should sound like. There should be some tension here, and then when you get this nice click, that's a good secure piece there. So